and communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Hello and welcome to Millennium News TV 24/7 Global News Network. Today is St. Patty's Day. We want to wish everybody a happy St. Patty's Day and have a safe and happy St. Patty's Day. Here's the news. Jussie Smollett was released from jail following 6 nights behind bars after an appeals court agreed with his lawyers that he should be free pending the appeal of his conviction for lying to police about a racist and homophobic attack. The former Empire actor, the show Empire, walked out of the Cook County Jail on Wednesday surrounded by security. He did not comment as he got into an awaiting SUV. But his attorneys said Smollett, who is black and also gay, was the target of a racist justice system and people playing politics. The appeals court ruling came after a Cook County judge sentenced Smollett last week to immediately begin serving 150 days in jail for his conviction on 5 felony counts of disorderly conduct, for lying to police, in an outburst immediately after the sentence was handed down. Smollett proclaimed his innocence and said, he said in quotes, "I am not suicidal. And if anything happens to me when I go in there, I did not do it myself. And you must all know that." End quotes. Next news, please. The trial of 4 men charged with planning to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer is resuming after a 3-day break because of a COVID-19 case. U.S. District Judge Robert Jonker said testimony will pick up again Thursday. The trial was suspended this week because the virus had struck a key participant in the case. There have been no further complications, the judge said Wednesday. Jonker didn't disclose the name of the person who tested positive for COVID-19 or their role. Masks are optional for everyone in court. Only one prosecutor and one juror wore a mask last week. Adam Fox, Barry Croft Jr., Daniel Harris, and Brandon Caserta are charged with conspiracy. Prosecutors say they turned their anger towards government in 2020 into a plot to kidnap Whitmer because of the restrictions she imposed during the early months of the pandemic. Next news. Authorities are trying to determine why a pickup truck crossed into the opposite lane on a darkened two-lane West Texas highway before colliding head-on with a van, killing 9 people, including a 13-year-old boy, in a fiery crash. Six of the dead were New Mexico University students and a coach returning from a golf tournament. Also killed in Tuesday evening's crash, where University of the Southwest students from Portugal and Mexico, while 2 Canadian students were hospitalized in critical condition. The National Transportation Safety Board was sending an investigative team to the crash site in Texas's Andrews County, about 30 miles or 50 kilometers east of the New Mexico state line. The golf team was traveling in a 2017 Ford Transit van that was towing a box trailer when it collided with the truck, and both vehicles burst into flames, according to the NTSB spokesman Eric Weiss. Next news. Drivers of bigger vehicles, such as pickup trucks and SUVs, are more likely to hit pedestrians while making turns than drivers of cars, according to a new study. The research released Thursday by the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety points to the increasing popularity of larger vehicles as a possible factor in rising pedestrian deaths on U.S. roads. The authors also questioned whether wider pillars holding up roofs of the larger vehicles make it harder for drivers to spot people walking near the corners of vehicles. In quotes, the link between these vehicles types and certain common pedestrian crashes points to another way that the increase in SUVs on the roads might be changing the crash picture, end quote, said Jessica Caccino, a study author and vice president of research for the Institute. Although the study mentioned previous research showing blind spots caused by the A pillars between the windshield and the cabin, the authors said more studies needed to link the blind spots to the increased death. Okay, well, we're going to take a short break from the daily English news of Millennium News TV 24/7. Please stay with us. Thank you so much.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Hello and welcome back to Millennium News TV 24/7 Global News Network. Here's the continuation of today's top stories. President Joe Biden set out to finally complete the pivot to Asia, a long-sought adjustment of U.S. foreign policy to better reflect the rise of America's most significant military and economic competitor, China. But Russia's brutal invasion of Ukraine has made the vexing move even more complicated. China's government has vacillated between full embrace and more measured responses as Russian President Vladimir Putin prosecutes his war, making the decisions for Biden far more layered. In quotes, it's difficult, it's expensive, Kurt Campbell, the coordinator for Indo-Pacific Affairs on the White House National Security Council, said during a recent forum of maintaining a high-level U.S. focus in two regions. Quotes, but it's also essential, and I believe we're entering a period where that's what will be required of the United States and of this generation of Americans. Period. End quotes. Next news. As the war in Ukraine rages on, diplomats trying to salvage the languishing 2015 Iran nuclear deal have been forging ahead with negotiations despite distractions caused by the conflict. They now appear to be near the cusp of a deal that would bring the U.S. back into the accord and bring Iran back into compliance with limits on its nuclear program. After 11 months of on and off talks in Vienna, U.S. officials and others say only a very small number of issues remain to be resolved. Meanwhile, Russia appears to have backed down on a threat to crater an agreement over Ukraine-related sanctions that had dampened prospects for a quick deal. That leaves an agreement, or at least an agreement in principle, up to political leaders in Washington and Tehran. But as has been frequently the case, both Iran and the US say those decisions must be made by the other side, leaving a resolution in limbo, even as all involved say the matter is urgent and must be resolved as soon as possible. That's right. Next news. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky summoned memories of Pearl Harbor and the September 11th terror attacks Wednesday in an impassioned live video plea to Congress to send more help for Ukraine's fight against Russia. Lawmakers stood and cheered, and President Joe Biden later announced the U.S. is sending more anti-aircraft, anti-armor weapons, and drones. Biden also declared that Russian President Vladimir Putin is a war criminal. He is the strongest condemnation yet. War criminal. The day after the Senate unanimously asked for international investigations of Putin for war crimes in Ukraine. In a moment of high drama at the Capitol, Zelensky live-streamed his speech to a rapt audience of lawmakers on a giant screen, acknowledging from the start that the no-fly zone he has repeatedly sought to close the sky to airstrikes on his country may not happen. Biden has resisted that, as well as approval for the U.S. or NATO to send MiG fighter jets from Poland, as risking wider war with the nuclear-armed Putin. Instead, Zelensky pleaded for other military aid and more drastic economic sanctions to stop the Russian assault, with the fate of his country at stake. Wearing his now trademark army green t-shirt, Zelensky began his remarks to American friends by invoking the destruction of the U.S. suffered in 1941, Pearl Harbor, when Japan bombed the naval base at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii, and the 2001 attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon by militants who commandeered passenger airplanes to crash into the symbols of Western democracy and economy. Next news, please. The U.S. grew wealthier, better educated, less impoverished, and less transient during the second half of the last decade, according to data released Thursday by the U.S. Census Bureau. Median household income for the nation, which had been almost $54,000 from 2011 to 2015, rose to almost $65,000 during the 2016 to 2020 period, which was the final stretch of the longest expansion in the history of U.S. business cycles, according to American Community Survey 5-year estimates. With the exception of Colorado, the states with the biggest gains in household income were primarily on the coasts. The Rocky Mountain State joined the District of Columbia, California, Massachusetts, and Washington with household jumps ranging from $15,000 to $20,000. The smallest gains of $6,000 or less were in Alaska, Louisiana, and Puerto Rico. The data released Thursday captured the second half of a decade-long expansion in the U.S. economy that followed the Great Recession. The expansion ended in spring 2020 as the coronavirus started spreading throughout the U.S., forcing businesses to close and workers to be laid off. The data captured only a small part of the initial impact from the pandemic, according to the Census Bureau. We're going to take a short break from the daily English news of Millennium News TV 24/7. Please stay with us. Thanks.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Hello and welcome back to Millennium News TV 24/7 Global News Update. Here's a continuation of today's top stories. A Russian airstrike ripped apart a theater where hundreds of people have been living in the besieged city of Mariupol, Ukrainian officials said, as Russian President Vladimir Putin calls for a self-purification to rid his country of anyone who questions his invasion. The bombardment Wednesday of the theater, which had become a makeshift shelter as combat tore across the port city over the past 3 weeks, and made thousands homeless, left many people buried in the burning rubble. Ukraine's foreign city said in a statement, there was no immediate word on how many people were killed or injured, at least as recently as Monday. The pavement in front of and behind the once elegant theater was marked with huge white letters spelling out CHILDREN in Russian, according to images released by the Maxar space technology company. Next news. Russian forces freed the mayor of the Ukrainian city of Melitopol in exchange for 9 of their captured conscripts. An official from Ukraine's presidential office said Wednesday. Kiev accused the Russians of kidnapping Mayor Ivan Fedorov about a week ago. Surveillance video showed him being marched out of a city hall, apparently surrounded by Russian soldiers. Residents of Melitopol, a city in southeast currently under Russian control, have been protesting to demand his release. Daria Zarivna, spokeswoman of the head of Ukraine's presidential office, said Wednesday that Fedorov has been released from captivity and Russia got 9 of its captive soldiers born in 2002 and 2003, practically children. Conscripts, Russia's defense ministry said weren't there. In quotes. Moscow initially denied sending conscripts to fight in Ukraine, but later, the Russian military admitted that some conscripts have been involved in the offensive and even got captured by the Ukrainian forces. Next news. Despite 3 weeks of Russian bombardment, Ukraine has kept up a stiff defense of its cities by using Turkish-made drones to carry out pop-up attacks on the invaders with a lethal effectiveness that has surprised Western military experts. The Bayraktar TB2 unmanned aerial vehicles, which carry lightweight, laser-guided bombs, normally excel in low-tech conflicts, and Turkey has sold them to more than a dozen countries, including Azerbaijan, Libya, Morocco, and Ethiopia. The drones have carried out unexpectedly successful attacks in the early stages of Ukraine's conflict with Moscow, before the Russians were able to set up their air defenses in the battlefield, said Jack Watling of the London-based Royal United Services Institute. In quotes, the TB2s shouldn't be making a meaningful impact because they are medium altitude, slow flying aircraft with a large electromagnetic signature and a large radar cross section. And the Russians have a very capable air defense systems, so they should be. I don't know what you're saying. Okay, I don't know what this sentence says. Anyway, the terrain is very open and gives good radar coverage. End quotes. Watling added. He said Ukrainian forces, in quotes, have been essentially flying in at low level and then coming up and raiding with them, so striking targets of opportunity. End quotes. Next news. Former President Juan Orlando Hernandez should be extradited to the United States to face drug trafficking and weapons charges. A Honduran judge ruled Wednesday. The country's Supreme Court of Justice said late Wednesday via Twitter that the judge had decided to grant the U.S. extradition request. U.S. prosecutors in the Southern District of New York have accused Hernandez in recent years of funding his political rise with profits from drug traffickers in exchange for protecting their shipments. He has strongly denied any wrongdoing. Former First Lady Ana Garcia told local journalists while leaving the court that she was confident the truth would eventually come out and her husband would be exonerated. In quotes, I regret that this happens to someone who has been an ally, end quotes, of the United States, she said. Quotes, I ask myself from this point on who else will want to work to combat drug trafficking in any country of the region or Honduras. If today they do this to the one who put himself out there, what can we expect? End quotes. We're going to take a short break from the daily English news of Millennium News TV 24/7. Please stay with us. Thank you.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Welcome back to the daily English global news of Millennium TV 24/7. Here's the rest of today's headlines. Thank you for being with us. Russian forces destroyed a theater in Mariupol where hundreds of people were sheltering Wednesday and rained fire on other cities, Ukrainian authorities said, even as the two sides protected optimism over efforts to negotiate an end to the fighting. Airstrike. The airstrike ripped apart the center of the once elegant building where hundreds of civilians had been living since their homes had been destroyed in the fighting. Ukraine's foreign ministry said in a statement, many people were buried in the rubble, the statement said, though there was no immediate word on how many had been killed or injured. Satellite imagery from Monday showed the word. We went through this already. Next news, please. Next news. Residents in Fukushima and Miyagi were cleaning their homes after a sleepless night following a powerful 7.4 magnitude earthquake that struck off the northern Japanese coast, smashing furniture, knocking out power, and killing 4 people. The region is part of an area devastated by a deadly 9.0 quake and tsunami 11 years ago that caused nuclear reactor meltdowns, spewing massive radiation that still makes some parts uninhabitable. Chief Cabinet Secretary Hirokazu Matsuno told reporters Thursday morning that 4 people died during the quake and the causes of their deaths are being investigated, while 107 others were injured. A man in his 60s in Soma City died after falling from the second floor of his house while trying to evacuate, and a man in his 70s panicked and suffered a heart attack. Kyoto News reported earlier. Next news, please. When the 11-year-old son started losing weight and drinking lots of water, Tabitha and Brian Balsitis chalked it up to a growth spurt and advice from his health class. But unusual crankiness and lethargy raised their concern, and tests showed his blood sugar levels were off the charts. Just 6 months after a mild case of COVID-19, the Crown Point, Indiana boy was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. His parents were floored. It didn't run in the family, but autoimmune illness did, and doctors said that could be a factor. Could his diabetes also be linked with the coronavirus, wondered Nolan's mom, a respiratory therapist. Turns out scientists in the US and elsewhere are asking the same question and investigating whether any connection is more than a coincidence. It's clear that in those who already have diabetes, COVID-19 can worsen the condition and lead to severe complications, but there are other possible links. Next news. After dropping nearly all coronavirus restrictions last month, Britain is now ending some of its most widespread COVID-19 testing and monitoring programs, a move some scientists fear will complicate efforts to track the virus and detect worrisome new variants. Officials have largely dismissed those concerns despite a recent uptick in cases across Europe, insisting that high immunization rates will help dampen future waves of disease. Based on how quickly new variants have arisen, some experts suggest the next one could arrive as early as May. They warn that UK authorities should be using the time to prepare rather than winding down their pandemic defenses. Mark Woolhouse, an epidemiologist at the University of Edinburgh, said it is an unfortunate pattern that has been seen repeatedly throughout the outbreak. This has been the daily global news update of Millennium News TV 24/7. Thank you for watching. Please log in to get the latest news on all of our social networking sites. You ready for this, folks? Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. On TikTok, we're Millennium News 24. You got to check it out. It's great. Also, on YouTube, please check this out too. YouTube channel is News Channel M24. Viewers, now on network broadcasting, you heard that? Android and iOS devices, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV. Also, all smart TV platforms. Please enjoy our entertainment and our latest news, views, editorials, and current events. Our Millennium News TV apps, Millennium TV USA on Android, iOS, everything. Millennium News Google, check us out on the web, www.millenniumnews24.com, you know all that stuff. Stay with Millennium News 24. Thank you for being with us and have a pleasant tomorrow. Thanks.